Don't let the rebound
Still
for
do
you.
this shit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I still do this shit.
Don't let the rebound for you,
I
though.
still do this shit. They put me on the shelf, you know?
LeBron James being listed as questionable with the sore foot is already enough to get people talking. But what really made this situation bigger was the timing. That is the part fans keep going back to. Right after a game where LeBron was seen talking with the fan and seeming to say that he can still do what he has always done, people started looking at the next matchup and asking one simple question. If you still feel like you can take over a game, then why does it feel like this next test is the one you might sit out? That is where the whole debate starts, and that is why so many people are watching this closely. A lot of fans came away from that moment against Dallas with the feeling that LeBron wanted everyone to know he is still that guy. He looked like he was trying to make it clear that he can still dominate, still control a game, and still carry a team when needed. That is what made the message feel strong. It was not just casual talk. It sounded like a reminder. It sounded like LeBron was pushing back against the idea that he has slowed down too much or that he now has to sit in the background while other players take over. When people heard that, they started expecting him to back that up in the next big game. Then comes the problem. The next game on the schedule is not just any game. It is against a team that has already shown how dangerous it is. It is a team that plays hard, fast, and with confidence. It is a team that can make even great players look uncomfortable if everything is not working. So now the focus shifts from the words to the action. If LeBron really feels like he still has that same level in him, then fans are going to expect him to step on the court and prove it. That is how this works when you are one of the biggest names in sports. Every word gets tied to the next result. That is why this whole sore foot situation has people split right down the middle. One side says it's simple. A player is hurt, he is older, and he has to be smart. That is the fair side of the argument. LeBron has been in the league for a very long time. He has played more high-level basketball than almost anyone ever. That wear and tear is real. No one can honestly deny that. At this stage of his career, even a small issue can become something bigger if you do not handle it carefully. So if he is dealing with soreness, then sitting out could just be the smart move. But the other side is not buying that so easily. That side is looking at the timing and saying it feels too perfect. They're saying this is exactly the kind of game where LeBron knows things could go bad fast if the Lakers are missing help and the other team comes out hot. They're saying if this was against a weak team, maybe people would feel more confident that he was going to play through it. But because it is a strong team, now the question gets louder. Is this really about the foot, or is this about avoiding a rough night that could lead to a lot of criticism? That is the real story here. It is not only the injury report, it is what people think the injury report means. Fans are not just reacting to the word sore foot. They are reacting to years of watching LeBron manage games, manage minutes, and manage his body in a very careful way. Some respect that, some hate it. Some say it is smart basketball. Some say it is image protection. That is why the debate gets so heated. People are not judging this one game by itself. They are tying it to the full picture of how LeBron has handled this stage of his career. And to be fair, there is a reason this topic keeps coming up around him. LeBron is no longer the young player who can go full speed every night without thinking about the cost. He has to pick his moments more than he used to. That is normal. That happens to every all-time great if they play.
The difference is that with LeBron, every choice gets watched harder because of who he is. If he sits, people ask why. If he plays, people ask if he is chasing stats. If he has a big night against a weak team, people say he picked the easy matchup. If he struggles against a top team, people say he cannot do it anymore. That is the reality around him now. Still, what gave this story extra life was that moment with the fan. It made people feel like LeBron himself was speaking on how he is being used. The idea that he is being put on the shelf or held back instantly catches attention because it sounds like he is saying there is still more in the tank than what people are seeing. And if that is true, then of course fans will want to see it in the hardest spots, not just in games where the pressure is lower. If you're telling people you still have that full power, then the next test becomes the proof point. That is why the upcoming game matters so much in the eyes of critics. They are saying this is the exact time to show it. No excuses, no waiting, no soft landing. If the team is short-handed, then that is even more reason for a leader to step up and take the challenge. That is how they see it. They believe true greatness shows itself most when the help is missing and the odds are bad. So when they hear questionable with sore foot, they do not think about smart rest first. They think about avoidance. They think about someone reading the room and deciding this is not the night to risk a bad look. That may sound harsh, but that is where the talk is right now. A lot of people believe LeBron is more aware of his image than almost any star we have ever seen. They believe he knows exactly how every game will be judged. They believe he knows when people are ready to praise him and when they are ready to pile on him. Because of that, every late-season injury report becomes bigger than it would be for another player. With LeBron, people always want to know if the move is about health, winning, or control of the story around him. There is also the way people view his style now. Critics say he saves energy during games, picks spots on defense, waits for the right time to attack, and makes sure he stays in range to finish with a strong stat line. Supporters say that is just what smart veteran stars do. They say he has earned the right to play the game in a more controlled way, especially after carrying so much for so many years. But if you already believe that LeBron picks his spots too much, that a game like this only adds fuel to the fire. It fits right into the idea that he chooses when to push and when to step back. And that is why so many people are bringing up the level of competition. Against weaker teams, LeBron can still look very comfortable. He can score well, make smart passes, control tempo, and put up numbers that remind everybody how great he still is. In those games, he looks like he is fully in command. But against the very best teams, where every weakness gets pressed, the challenge is different. The pace is harder, the pressure is higher, the mistakes stand out more. If he sits against one of those teams right after telling people he can still do it, critics are going to say the message and the action do not match. Now, to be fair again, none of us can fully know how much pain he is dealing with. That part matters. It's easy for fans to talk tough from the outside, but players feel things that never fully make it into a report. A sore foot can sound minor on paper and still be serious enough to affect everything. Foot problems are not small for a player who depends on balance, power, and control. One bad step can change a whole game. One push too far can make a short issue turn into a long one. So there is always another side to these talks that fans sometimes ignore when emotion takes over. But even if that is true, perception still matters. And right now, the perception is rough. People are looking at the schedule and saying this feels like a pattern. They are saying he knows where the best chance for a win is, where the numbers will look best, and where the risk of getting blown out is highest. That is what the critics believe. They think he is all
Not just the scoreboard, but the storyline. Not just the matchup, but how the result will shape the talk around him the next day. That is why they do not see this as a random injury question. They see it as part of a larger habit. What makes this even more interesting is that LeBron does still have strong games. That is what keeps the debate alive. If he looked washed every night, there would be nothing to argue about. People would just say age caught up to him. But because he can still put together big scoring nights, big passing nights, and even big all-around games, the conversation stays open. Fans still see flashes and think maybe he can do more. Maybe he is holding something back. Maybe the old level is still there in short bursts. And when they believe that, they start expecting him to use it in the biggest moments. That is why this next step matters so much. If he plays, the whole conversation changes right away. Then it becomes about whether he can really lead, whether he can compete hard against a top team, and whether he can back up the feeling he gave people with that courtside moment. If he sits, then the questions only get louder. People will say he talked big and then stepped away when the test got real. That may or may not be fair, but that is exactly how sports talk works around stars of this size. There's also the question of what leadership looks like at this point in his career. Some fans still want LeBron to be the guy who can drag a team through anything. They still look at him through the lens of his peak years, when he could take over a playoff series and crush teams through force, control, and pure will. But that version of him cannot be the standard forever. At some point, leadership changes. It becomes more about timing, reading the season, and keeping enough in the tank for the games that matter most. The issue is that many fans do not want to hear that when the player in question is LeBron James. They want proof that the old version still lives. That is why even a short exchange with a fan can turn into a major talking point. People hear confidence from LeBron and immediately hold him to the highest standard possible. They do not hear, "I still have something left." They hear, "I am still that same unstoppable guy." Once they hear it that way, the pressure comes fast. Then every missed game looks suspicious. Every bad matchup looks like a choice. Every strong night against a weaker team looks like safe timing. It may not be fully fair, but LeBron has lived in that space for so long that almost every move he makes gets judged through that lens. Then there is the issue of stats, which always follows him. Critics love to say that LeBron knows exactly where his numbers stand and finds ways to finish with a line that looks strong, even if the full impact on winning is not what it used to be. Supporters answer that every star cares about numbers because numbers help win games, and LeBron is still one of the best at affecting a game in many ways. But if you already think he is too focused on the stat sheet, then sitting out against a top team becomes another brick in that wall. It feeds the belief that he is more careful now about how his nights look than about stepping into every challenge. Whether that is true or not, it is part of the story, and stories matter. That is especially true with LeBron, because his career has always been about more than the box score. It has always been about image, pressure, expectation, and legacy. Every season adds another layer. Every game becomes part of the debate about where he stands among the all-time greats. So when people feel like he might be avoiding a matchup, they do not treat it like a normal injury decision. They treat it like a window into how he wants his final years to be seen. What makes the whole thing more tense is that the Lakers do not always have much room for error. Every game matters. Every result affects seeding, confidence, and the way the team is judged going into the next stretch. So when your biggest star is questionable, it changes everything. And when that star is LeBron, fans do not just ask if the team can survive without him. They ask what his absence says. Does it mean the body is finally wearing down more than ever? Does it mean he is being smart? Or does it mean he has already decided which battles are worth taking and which ones are not? Again, that may be too harsh, and it may ignore real pain, but it is a belief many people have. And once people believe it, every situation starts to look like proof. That is what makes this bigger than one injury report. People are fitting this game into a story they already believe. At the same time, there is a chance all of this talk looks silly if he ends up playing and playing well. That is the funny part about sports. One strong performance can shut down days of debate in a matter of hours. If LeBron steps on the floor, looks sharp, and keeps the game close or even steals a win, then all the talk about ducking the matchup takes a huge hit. Suddenly, the story becomes that he answered the noise. Suddenly, the sore foot becomes just something he fought through. That is why the next update matters so much. It can flip the whole conversation instantly. But until that happens, people are going to keep reading into every sign. They're going to watch warm-ups, reports, and every small detail. They're going to ask whether he looked fine after the last game, whether this soreness came out of nowhere, and whether the matchup is driving the choice more than the medical issue is. That is just where things are when a star has been under the spotlight for this long. Nothing stays simple. Every small detail turns into a bigger question about motive, toughness, pride, and control. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. LeBron may really be dealing with soreness, and he may also understand exactly how bad this matchup could look if the team gets run off the floor. Both things can be true at once. He can be hurt and still aware of the image side of it. He can want to compete and still know his body cannot answer every call the way it once did. That middle ground is not dramatic, but it is often where the real answer lives. The problem is fans do not love the middle. They want a clear side. They want either warrior or dodger, leader or stat chaser, still great or